Alright, let's move on with the Chandra campaign. So, I guess storyline catch up. Chandra and her parents ran away from the oppressive police state. They found her. They killed Chandra's poor dad. Don't worry, he gets a ship named after him later. It's all good. And yeah, now we are fighting for our lives with our Planeswalker Spark about to ignite, or something like that. Anyway, I believe this will probably be a blue opponent, based on the name. Could be blue-white as well. Definitely a very controlling hand here. But I think that's okay. Unless the opponent's running a bunch of counter magic, then we could be in trouble. But blind will keep this. So they are at least white, maybe blue-white. We draw the Hellion, which is nice. Lead with our mountain. We don't have any plays until turn 4, and now that we have the Hellion, we probably want to even save those burn spells if we can. But that's okay. Our opponent looks like they're slow themselves. Oh, maybe not. Oh, okay. So this might be a Death and Taxes or a Hate Bear style deck. So they're going to play creatures that have static abilities that interfere with our ability to play the game. This is a really cool deck type, but I think we're going to match up okay against it. We'll see. We're just keeping on drawing lands, which doesn't hurt. I mean, it ensures that we can now play every card in our hand, but we're without any action in the early game here, so I sincerely hope our opponent doesn't just snowball outside of our ability to control them. I would still rather not play either of these Chandra's Outrages on turn 4, but if we don't draw anything, we might have to. A Fiery Impulse isn't bad, but I wouldn't mind getting the Spell Mastery off the Fiery Impulse, which would mean saving it until after I cast these Outrages. I don't think there's going to be time to do that. I think I'm going to have to use the Impulse on my opponent's turn here. We're not going to use it in combat. I mean, we could use it to prevent damage from the from their creature over there, but because we would have to be active in that case, we would lose out to any trick, and we deny ourselves the ability to deal with anything they play post-combat. So we're going to wait till the end of their turn to consider using this Fiery Impulse. Okay, not sure how this card fits into my opponent's overall strategy. It is something that I can deal with using the Chandra's Outrages. Obviously, I can't burn it with the Fiery Impulse, so with it on the stack, I'm going to stop the timer. I'm going to use the Impulse on their creature here. And move on. Okay, another mountain. Lovely. So, no reason to play this Outrage yet. And even if I get the opportunity on my opponent's turn, I am going to strongly consider holding it up. Just because both of those modes, both the 4 damage to a creature and the 2 damage to the creature's controller, are pumped by Emmermaw Hellion's ability. So I'd much rather field my Hellion first, have it sitting there as a possible blocker, and then start playing the Outrages. There's no real reason to be afraid of taking 2 damage from their artifact right now, so we'll continue to play a very passive game. If my opponent plays some sort of far more creature at 4 toughness 4 or less, I might consider outraging it, but I'm certainly not going to worry about this 2 damage. They have a heavy infantry, So I think I misinterpreted this as a Hate Bear style deck. What it is a white tempo sort of deck that keeps all my creatures tapped down. I'm just not playing creatures, so that's not a terribly effective strategy against me. But yeah, we'll just let this guy come in. We'll go to our turn. We're drawing more instants, which is nice. Play our Mountain. Play our Hellion. And say go. The opponent really only has attacks if they have tricks, which means that we shouldn't block any incoming attack. I don't think this computer has the kind of logic to bluff that. Against a human, I would... Ooh, interesting. Okay, so forgetting that previous discussion, they're using Faith's Fetters here to stop my Hellion from blocking, which is fair. That's going to let them deal 5 damage and take me down to 9, so nothing shabby. Faith's Fetters also does a good job of preventing my creatures from activating abilities, but the Hellion's ability is static. It's not an activated ability. It can't be shut down by Faith's Fetters here. So we're really not too sad about this at all. This is going to let my Hellion stick around as was sort of an enchantment, and now we can start marshaling our burn spells to stop the bleeding from my opponent's creatures. I think it would be very much a mistake here to play out a blocker, hoping that I could stop both creatures attacking that way. I think my opponent's deck is really set up to make that a bad plan. So my opponent is going to attack with both of their creatures, and they are going to get 2 damage in with their Bladed Sentinel. But I am going to kill the other creature with a Chandra's Outrage. The question is whether I want to do this now or on my opponent's turn. This is probably going to be the most interesting decision of this game. The reason that I would wait is that my opponent might present a better target for Chandra's Outrage on their turn. That's usually the argument for holding up an instant as long as possible. But see, the thing is here, if my opponent has a combat trick that boosts his creature's power and toughness, then the Chandra's Outrage is not going to kill it either way, right? He's either going to use the trick now or later. But if I let him use the trick on his turn, then that power boost will be there when he attacks me. And that's going to help him put me much, much closer to dead. So this is a rare occasion where I think it's a good idea to use the Chandra's Outrage on my main phase, or during my main phase, which is something you don't often want to do with an instant. In this case, he didn't have the trick anyway, so it would have worked out either way, but I'm happy with my choice. He does have a Raise the Alarm to give himself another 2 points of attacking power, but that's really not going to match up well against my Chandra's Outrage next turn. Not well at all. Four points of damage coming in from my opponent here. Nothing I can do about those. I really would love to see my opponent play pretty much anything here. Well, maybe not pretty much anything. That's a bit of a problem. Okay, what am I picking up here? Just a mountain. I have definitely flooded out a little on my lands here. So, if I play Chandra's Fury, it's going to deal 2 damage to each of my opponent's creatures. That, unfortunately, is going to leave him with 5 points of attacking power, and I can't survive 5 points of attacking power. So it has to be the Chandra's Outrage here, targeting the 3/4, which means I am going to take 4 points of damage on my turn. That's going to mean that the Chandra's Outrage kills the tokens the turn after, but if I don't draw something to block the Bladed Sentinel, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble here. So let's use the Outrage now for the same reasons that we did last turn, to kill heavy infantry. That's the limit of what I can do here. You can really see how much I'm suffering for having not drawn a card with a converted mana cost less than 4 this entire game, and for drawing way too many mountains. My opponent does the 4 points of damage that we had to expect. And now hopefully they play another Raise the Alarm, or Bladed Sentinel. That, I think that's probably it for us. I don't think we can beat those 2 4-power creatures. What might give us the best shot is a young Pyromancer, but the Pyre Charger just isn't going to do it for us. It would have been great last turn. It would have definitely given us the oomph we needed. But as things go here, the Chandra's Fury is only going to clear out 2 of his creatures. My blocker prevents a 3rd one, but there's no way to stop the 4th creature. So, I have to concede this game. The first one I think that I've lost. I guess we just restart it. Alright. So I don't think my plan was poor there, or I made any terrible decisions. I just didn't draw into the low drops I needed, or even an extra burn spell would have been nice. The opponent's deck is interesting. A nice white-based tempo deck. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, so this deck suffers from being very mana light, but if I hit 3, I'm golden. I do have play against their first creature. Manic Vandal kills those Bladed Sentinels that gave us so much trouble last game. And Chandra's Phoenix is a really nice blocker with Chandra's Outrage in hand. So on the basis of all that, I'm going to go for a sketchy keep here. There's this life gain element to my opponent's deck. I don't know if that's particularly appropriate. I don't think my opponent wins by beating me in a race where they need the few extra points of life. I think that when either one of us wins, it's going to be a pretty decisive victory. Anyway, I drew my mountain there, but not a second one. That's okay. This is kind of how I expected my hand to look at this point in the game. I'm still waiting to get good use off the Fiery Impulse, but my opponent hasn't given me a chance to do so far. What do we have coming down here? Okay, so a Grand Abolisher. This is interesting. This stops me from doing things at instant speed, effectively. I am just going to kill it with the Fiery Impulse, but if I do draw a mountain now, I'm going to feel pretty bad about the fact that my tempo is kind of thrown. If I don't draw a mountain, then I'm going to feel pretty good about it. Yeah, but I did. Okay, yeah, so now I have this choice to make. Now I can either play the Phoenix or kill the Grand Abolisher. I think I'm going to play the Phoenix and block, and if given the chance, block with it, since that accomplishes the same thing, killing the Grand Abolisher, and I know I'll be able to recur my Phoenix later with Chandra's Outrage. So I'll put the Phoenix in. But I'm definitely worried that I'm just going to see one of those tap-down effects from my opponent, followed by an attack, and this line is going to look pretty weak. Faith's Fetters. Yeah, not a great scenario. Now, I mean, that's a way of permanently dealing with my Phoenix, even apart from its ability to be recurred from the graveyard. If I was on that Liliana deck with the sacrifice effects, I would feel much better about that. Okay, a Pyre Charger. Well, that's not bad. The Pyre Charger can be played in concert with my Fire Impulse, and my opponent is now tapped down. So we're going to kill the Grand Abolisher with the Fiery Impulse. Play out the Pyre Charger. Get in there for a single point of damage, except I pressed the skip attack button. That's okay. That 1 point is not going to matter against my opponent at 26. Like I said earlier, I expect the winner of this game to be pretty confident in their win. I don't think it's going to be a particularly close one in terms of fight totals. The heavy infantry comes out from my opponent. That's not bad at all. We have plenty of ways to deal with that. Makes an odd choice, tapping down my Phoenix, given that it can't do anything. And we drew a mountain. Okay, so we're in a pretty good position now. Most of our cards are online, with the exception of our 2 big red creatures here. We are just going to attack in with our Pyre Charger. Don't imagine we'll see a block here, but we might, depending on what our opponent has in hand. Oh, yeah, they're willing to make this trade. Okay, if they're down for it, then I am. So I'm going to activate my Pyre Charger's ability 3 times. Allowing me to trade the Charger for their blocker, which just means that I keep my instant around in hand so that it's later better boosted by the Ember Maw. My opponent still has plays. In this case, a Silent Arbiter. I'm not sure actually if this is better for me or him. It's not like I'm going wide. He's the one that showed token makers in his deck. And I think that, you know, the effect of this Arbiter hurts him more than it hurts me. However, in this case, I can kill it for free, and there's no real reason not to do so. So I'll play the Manic Vandal. Target his Arbiter. Enjoy my little 2-for-1 there. And see what my opponent has in response. When I say a 2-for-1, what I mean is normally I spend a card out of my hand to get a creature, or I spend a card out of my hand to remove a creature of his. In this case, I spent a card out of my hand, I got a creature, and I removed a creature of his. So, with this mountain, I can field my Ember Maw Hellion. Pumping up my attacks as I go to hit with this Manic Vandal. Now for 3 damage. And I'm feeling pretty confident at this point. My opponent is without any presence on the board. The first creature and the first artifact they play, I have answers for. I have this big trampler that they haven't shown much defense against. Okay, so this is going to probably stop my Hellion from attacking for a while, but I'm not terribly worried about that. It's the same thing as the last game where the Hellion got base fetters. It's still doing its thing in making my my creatures stronger. So double enchanting it means I now need to pay 6 every time I want the Hellion to attack. That's just never going to happen. So the Hellion's effectively removed from the game, but my opponent spent 2 cards to do that. Like, that's not a great rate for them. A bunch of plays now. I can play Chandra's Phoenix and Manic Vandal together. I can play Fire Elemental. I can hold up Chandra's Outrage. I think it's got to be the Fire Elemental. As much as it would be nice to have the hasty creature down this turn, I do want to hold Manic Vandal in hand, which means I'm not playing both of them. And since I'm not playing both of them, I want to use my mana more efficiently. So it will be the Fire Elemental. Now I should have done that after attacking. That was a mistake. Oh, and now I guess I've got to be explicit about my attack with all button. Okay. So 3 damage into my opponent. And yeah, this should just be kind of a slow grind to the end of the game, because my opponent's just going to keep on using enchantments to take my creatures out. That's fine. At the end of the day, I just have more cards in hand than they do. And these final 2 creatures of mine, which aren't opposed by my opponent, now that they have no cards left, are going to have to do those final points of damage. Another mountain. Alrighty. So at this point, I can play Phoenix and leave up Outrage. So I'm going to do so. Swinging in for 3 points of damage with the Phoenix. Oh, sorry. He can move the prison turn. Okay. In that case, it'll have to be the Manic Vandal getting in. Still for 3 points of damage. It's not like it changes that counts in any way. And then, yeah, we'll hope he plays a creature that can get outraged. He has a Night Guard Patrol, which is indeed a creature that can get outraged. So we'll let that come into play. Cast our spell. Turning it to deal 5 damage to the creature, 3 damage to my opponent. And now we have, well, a sorcery. This spell is really, really good with the Hellion, because if I divide the damage, the Hellion's ability triggers for each division. So, like, if I use it and target a single target, it only deals 4 total damage. If I use it and target 3 separate targets, it deals 6 total damage. But as things stand, with my opponent cleared of creatures, I don't think I'm going to get the most optimal use out of it. I'm just going to hit my opponent with every point. Upping them to 10. And then I can go to my attacks. Come in with the Manic Vandal for 3 points. And plan next turn to pay the full amount on the Hellion and win that way. Because I don't need the Manic Vandal to win next turn, and I might still want it to kill something that my opponent plays, I'm going to continue to hold it in hand and clean this one up. Okay, no big final surprises from my opponent. Worst case scenario right now is that they have a Raise the Alarm, although I still trample over the Raise the Alarm tokens for 4 damage to my opponent. That is one way that they could stay alive. Anyway, we move to our attacks. We attack with both of our creatures. I will pay the full 6 mana necessary for the Hellion to attack. And that is enough to kill my opponent. Yeah, okay. So that's an interesting situation. Our decks were just a little too similar there. It kind of felt like a mirror match in the sense that we're both trying to just kind of set ourselves up by keeping the opponent weak, keeping them off the board, and then swinging in for a lot of damage towards the end of the game. And we just saw that in the first game, my opponent did that better. In that game, I did that better. In neither case was there a ton of interaction. The player with the advantage just kind of took and kept it while everything played out. But that's an aspect of Magic that can happen. So on to the final match of this campaign.